Good morning and welcome to Listen Up NC. We are the community talk show radio hosts, and we provide the tools, resources, and information that you would need to know to be informed on issues impacting you and your family. I am your host, Dr. Landon Mason, the president of the North Carolina Community Action Association and the executive director of the Economic Improvement Council, located in the great state of North Carolina and in the beautiful city of Hertford. Radio family, you know we are living in the midst of a public pandemic, and that is not only impacting our health tremendously, but it is also crippling our economy landscape across North Carolina and the nation. According to the Division of Employment Security, more than 1.1 million North Carolinians applied for unemployment benefits between March 15th and June 30th. And pretty much that is a scenario vulnerable families that you and I serve on a daily basis. The nature of this pandemic completely halted our economic infrastructure, and we are still faced with a lot of uncertainties. We know a lot of people that have lost their income and they are struggling to feed their families and their houses, their jobs are obviously in a position where we just don't know because there's so many uncertainties. Unfortunately, some of these families, they're really on the verge of being evicted, and sometimes you need some legal advice and guidance. And so we are happy to have our guest, Mr. George Housen, the executive of Legal Aid North Carolina. He is here to talk with us about some free legal aid assistance and how a team of attorneys across North Carolina can help income eligible families faced with a possible eviction or who have gotten behind in mortgage payments and need help navigating a plan that keeps them in their home. We know Legal Aid of North Carolina does a whole lot more. Thank you for joining us today, Ms. Housen. And also, we are elated to have some community action family here this morning with us as well. Mr. Abdul Rashid, the executive director of Franklin Vance Warren Opportunity, and we are extremely proud to have him. He is headquartered in Henderson, North Carolina, and also Mr. Seth Friedman, the executive director of Passage Home. You know it right there in our state capital, in that city of Raleigh. We again are so ecstatic to have him. Both Mr. Rashid and Mr. Friedman will also share with us how their organizations are helping families with housing and other service. First of all, let's take a deeper dive and move right into the presentation. Mr. Housen, would you please be so kind to tell us about legal aid programs and services and what you are doing right now to help low-income families remain in their homes?
Well, yes, sir. Good morning, Dr. Mason. It's good to be with you and with everyone else this morning. Pleased to be here. Legal Aid of North Carolina is a statewide nonprofit organization. We are not a state agency. We are a nonprofit. And we serve the entire state, all 100 counties. We're in about 25 locations, and we have 2 call centers, intake centers, where we take toll-free calls from people. We get about 200,000 requests a year for help. Now, we are civil lawyers. We are civil lawyers. We've got about 250 lawyers. We do civil work. That means we don't do criminal. Okay, so we can't help you with that, but we do civil work, and we focus on basic needs: housing, domestic violence, consumer protection, education, the school to prison pipeline, school discipline cases, public benefits, employment, and community economic development. Those are our areas of focus. And we also have special projects in which we work with individuals on their foreclosures. We do medical legal partnerships. We have special programs for seniors and veterans. So if anyone needs information about in any of those areas or direct assistance, they should call our toll-free number, 1-866-219-5262. Now, and for COVID-19, we've expanded all of these services, and we have a website at legalaidnc.org where you can get enormous amounts of information about all your benefits and eligibility under the CARES Act. And we've established some special programs Every week, we're doing numerous Facebook Live and Zooms that go out to the public where people can live ask questions directly to lawyers and advocates on those programs. And we're happy to collaborate with other nonprofits that want to join us in those efforts. We get hundreds of people on those calls. Especially for housing, with the moratoriums and everything, we expect this enormous surge in evictions coming forward. And people need, I won't get into all the details here because I know Sharon Goodson and others, and perhaps this program is going to do a deeper dive on the details here, but we have eviction diversion programs here where we will negotiate extended lease terms. We will negotiate what we call novations. That means new leases. We will negotiate payment plans and provide rental assistance along with crisis assistance and community action agencies around the state that Ms. Goodson will talk about. And we will work with them to extend people's ability to stabilize in place so that they're not homeless, so that they're not doubled up, and so that they can avoid the disease and the instability of evictions and being homeless. So we've got programs around the state on that, particularly one here in Raleigh, where even the county and the city are providing millions of dollars to help us with that. We've got programs on unemployment benefits, should people have questions about that. We're in the courtrooms every day on DV. Domestic violence is a big issue. It has spiked during the pandemic. So if people need assistance with that, they should go to our website. They should tune in to our YouTube library, and there's enormous amounts of information. And again, calling our toll-free line just for information is fine. We're happy to help out.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Housen. That information has been very, very helpful. And so we thank you for your time. We really appreciate the contributions that you give to the citizens of the state of North Carolina. And here it is. We also have Mr. Rashid, who shares with our listeners what Franklin, Vance, Warren opportunities, what they are doing as it relates to housing and other services they are doing to help low-income families, and how does an individual qualify for your services. Mr. Rashid, we want to hear from you.
Good morning, Dr. Mason, and let me also greet George Housen and say that I am a graduate of Legal Aid of North Carolina, and I continue to congratulate them for all the good work that they do and have done historically.
Let me interrupt and just say, not only are you a graduate, you are a foundation, sir.
Wow.
Well, thank you. You're kind. But Dr. Mason, we are one of your member organizations that work with low-income citizens around the four-county area that we serve. And naturally, we're guided by poverty income guidelines like other community action agencies are. And we work to support individuals and family members in our respective service area, attempting to try to help them look at financial literacy as it relates to trying to understand what limited resources they do have that can assist them in acquiring and retaining quality housing. We also help with a home ownership counseling platform that we support individuals that enter our programs and then seek to try to move out of their current rental housing situation, and move toward home ownership. Franklin Vance Warren also is fortunate to provide Section 8 housing vouchers. We have some 500 housing vouchers where we provide vouchers to assist individuals with securing and maintaining quality housing. So that's a significant program that we maintain and feel so good about, that we're able to help individuals in securing and maintaining housing. We have a weatherization program also Dr. Mason, as you may be aware of, that assist individuals in upgrades to their housing that could, in fact, help them with heating, cooling, other health-related upgrades that will make their living environments more livable and healthy for them in the short and long run.
Yes,
and
sir.
then lastly, I'll mention this quickly. We own and operate 72 units of senior housing in Lewisburg, North Carolina, that provides, again, quality, safe housing for individuals that qualify for our services. So I'll stop there and be ready to respond and ask questions around any of those particular programs that Franklin Vance Warren is currently managing.
Thank you so much again, Mr. Rashid, and obviously the work that you're doing there in those 4 communities, counties, it's major work, it's huge work, and we thank you for you and your agency being boots on the ground. And then, of course, we do have Mr. Friedman. He's here with us from Passage Home, assistance families with housing and other services during this pandemic. And we want to give him an opportunity to share some great things that's going on there in the Passage Home community. Would you share with us, Mr. Friedman?
Yeah, good morning. Passage Home is Wake County's anti-poverty organization. Our big focus is housing and income security because we know even if we find the best housing, we have to make sure that the families that we work with are able to sustain it. During this pandemic, some of the work we're really proud of is we understand that if we thought the school district would close and what that would mean for the families. We know there's 4,000 families that in Wake County, or 4,000 children that go to Wake County schools that were living in hotels, and that for a lot of them, what they had at school was their primary source of nutrition during the day. We got together a coalition of Wake County change agents, nonprofit, government officials, and said, what can we do? How can we get together and make sure these families are going to get the food they need, or these children can get the food they need when school's out? And through this coalition, there are thousands of meals throughout Wake County. And to Wake County Schools District's credit, they did a really wonderful job of picking up and making sure these families were taken care of. In addition, with this pandemic, when it was a shelter-in-place order, a lot of these families didn't have a place to shelter. And while there was an eviction moratorium that George referenced earlier, a lot of the families that were living in hotels, like I said, 4,000 Wake County school children were living in hotels, did not have a lot of those same protections. So we made sure that the families living in hotels were able to maintain residents in those hotels, not move to more public facilities or more group facilities or become transient, because the transient nature would have either exposed them to COVID-19 or put them at greater risk to spread COVID-19. So we've been helping families maintain their residence. And then our typical work, we own and operate 100 units of affordable housing throughout Wake County. In Wake County, the average 2-bedroom rent is a little over $1,200 right now. Our units rent for a little under $600 to make sure that it's affordable for the clients we serve. And we're continuing to look, and with this pandemic, we're taking on an increased caseload. On a typical year, we serve about 300 families. For the next year, we anticipate serving closer to 1,000 families through housing and job security. And the biggest transition we've had to make is through our job training program. Over the past couple of years, we've grown a robust job training program, help families or adults gain really concrete, tangible skills that lead to industry recognized certificates. But we did that in a classroom setting, and we can't do that today. So just last week, we launched an online job training program that has both live online learning with a live instructor and a learn at your own pace class or classes where the clients can choose to participate in the class when it's convenient for them, because we know, typical hours aren't always best for our clients because they're working at a lower paying job, taking care of their family. We want to make sure they have the flexibility they need. And all of our work is done through a multi-generational approach. You know, it's our goal to break the cycle of poverty, the cycle of trauma, because we know a child that's growing up today, living in a housing insecure environment is, you know, going to lack the security they need to focus in school, lack other basic needs that are going to impact their brain, and children that live in poverty are more likely to experience ACEs or adverse childhood experiences. And we want to make sure they have the tools necessary to help their family break the cycle of poverty. And if not now, when they get through high school and become into adulthood, they can be most successful. And Passage Home is continuing to look for other ways to innovate and serve the clients in our community.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mr. Friedman, again, for the work that you're doing there at Passage Home. You are definitely, you and your team are boots on the ground, and really appreciate the services that you offer to low-income families, obviously. And so, again, we thank you so much. Listen, Mr. Friedman and also Mr. Rashid, we have lost, you know, the news, of course, have really put a lot of weight on the passing of that civil rights icon in Representative John Lewis. Obviously, there's a lot of communication that are surfacing. And so we do know he was definitely a senior statesman, a humble giant who grew up in poverty, marched along with Dr. King, and who fought for the rights to vote for each and every last one of us. And one thing that Representative Lewis that he said, and I quote, the vote is the most powerful nonviolent tool we have in democracy, unquote. And that's a powerful message, and one that we can all use. And I want to know, first of all, and I know our time is running very shortly, but of course, Ms. Rashid, if you just take a moment, a few seconds, and just kind of chime in on the work in this service and the sacrifice of this great giant as we remember him in the work that he's already done for us.
Thank you, Dr. Mason, and thank you for raising up the life and the work and the sacrifice of our brother John Lewis, who is certainly an example of all the work that is represented by community action agencies and legal aid, not just in North Carolina, but across this country.
Yes, sir.
This is the top result.
And Dr. Mason, Dr. Lewis gave his life, literally.
Yes, sir.
By being willing to demonstrate the courage, step in front of potential harm, to continue consistently to advocate for equal opportunity and equal justice for all people.
Yeah.
And we hope that we can continue as agencies and individuals and leaders, exemplifying the principles of John Lewis's life, the example of John Lewis's life, and fighting for the families and individuals that, as you say, we're boots on the ground for every day. So I'm honored that you would allow us to acknowledge the work of Congressman Lewis. And I ask all of us to, again, the best way we can exemplify his life in today's reality is vote.
Yes, sir.
That if we can get out and vote and assist and facilitate individuals exercising their right to the ballot box during this most important critical election, then I think that we will have best honored Dr. Lewis's, Congressman Lewis's life. So please, listening audience, let's vote in honor of the life and sacrifice of Congressman John Lewis. Thank you, Dr. Mason.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Rashid. Well said. Well said. And that's the way we keep that legacy living. Again, we always appreciate your presentations. Thank you so much for the work, again, that you're doing in the Franklin Vance Warren community. Also, Mr. Friedman, I want to give you an opportunity to weigh in on the life of that senior statesman, major icon in the movement of being able to help people, advocate for people, obviously, that has no voice because of some kind of adverse experience, no fault of their own. But every now and then, we are privileged and we are blessed to have someone that would rise to the occasion and speak on behalf of those that have been disenfranchised economically. Would you take a moment and weigh in on the life of Congressman John Lewis?
Yeah, obviously we lost a great human being this week. Really stood out to me was, his parents persisting to him that he did not fight against the Jim Crow South and segregation, that he kind of stayed with the status quo. But he chose the harder path because the harder path was what was right. And he continued down that, 60, 70 years throughout his life. And I think for someone like me, someone who presents white, it's very easy for me to just sit back and take the easy path and access the privilege that comes with my presentation. But it's much harder to take the harder path, to speak up, to speak or to speak for what is right, to do what is right, to advocate for what is right, and to understand that, I could be quiet and I could be silent and I can go about my life and really have little impact on my day to day. But that's not what's right. That's what's easy. So it's much better to do, as you said, take the harder path and speak up for what is right and challenge society to be a better society, as John Lewis did throughout his life.
Thank you very kindly again. Today we do honor the life and the legacy of Congressman Lewis. I want to say thank you again to Mr. Housen. Thank you again for your contributions. It means so much to the citizens of the state of North Carolina. To Mr. Rashid, again, the work that you're doing, it is phenomenal. And then, of course, Mr. Friedman, want to thank you for the work that you're doing, the leadership that you are providing in the central part of the state. And then, of course, want to thank all of you all for taking the time to be with us. Radio friends, I want you to meet us here on next Saturday. If you need to find your local community action agency or Head Start program, please visit www.nccaa.net. Until next week, I want you to be safe and listen up, NC. Have a great and amazing day.